Hey there, everybody. We've suited up, or I guess we've suited up about as well as we can suit up here.
Yeah, I got a suit. I was going to pull it out, but, it was from when I was a funeral director, so not appropriate for
No,
this.
this is a discussion for How I Met Your Mother in our ongoing Is This Pilot Actually Good? And it is going to be legend, wait for it, dairy. Okay, the legendary joke is not actually in the pilot
No, it's
for
not.
How I Met Your Mother, but I am so excited to talk about this. This is one that I have been looking forward to doing for a long time. We're going to go through it. We're going to talk about what works in the pilot, what doesn't, and ultimately we'll try to answer that question of, is this pilot actually good? Before we do, if you like this video, give us a like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any other updates.
So I like to give full disclosure at the beginning of these of whether we've seen this show, whether we've seen this pilot. This is the first time we've come up against this in our series. So I have never seen any of this show. We do run a spoiler TV news type website, so I know stuff from how it ends and stuff like that, but I have actually never seen this show. So this is my first viewing ever.
I, however, have seen the entire show from start to finish, and yes, I have a lot of opinions about How I Met Your Mother, but other than a couple about the ending, I'm gonna refrain from a lot of them throughout this video.
Yeah, this is really just about the pilot. So
Yeah.
I usually like to start these by talking about the theme song, because there's a lot of shows out there where the theme song is legendary. I didn't wait for it.
No.
So, our viewing of this, though, there was no theme song, which I found really interesting, especially back when it aired at a time where theme songs were really important and they were on a lot of shows. So it was pretty, interesting that they chose to not go in that direction for the pilot.
Yeah, eventually there's one that becomes a little bit more of a part of the show, but it is really, really short. Like, it's maybe like 10 seconds at most, and they're really all about, okay, we've only got 22 minutes of content here. Let's give you as many great moments as possible. You don't want to have to cut anything of Barney playing laser tag to get an extended theme song wedged in there.
So as a first viewer here, I don't really know a ton about the rest of the show. I know some spoilers, like I said, but just watching the pilot, there was a lot of stuff that I really liked about it that worked really well. And for me, the main thing that I actually really liked about this, because it kind of felt like an edgier Friends, and I enjoyed Friends. But the thing that they focused on in this pilot that I really liked was sort of this theme of, you've got a group of friends. What happens when a pair of them or someone in your group of friends decides to get married and start to take that next step into marriage and kids, and that unit changes, and then the friendships all kind of change, because then it starts to make you think about where you are in your own life. And I think everybody's been there to some degree.
It's the relatability, I think, of How I Met Your Mother is a part of the reason why I think it's so strong. And I love the pilot, and I'll explain more as to why I love the pilot as we go along, but I think just this aspect of it from the get-go is fantastic, because I think a lot of us have been Ted Mosby. I was Ted Mosby at the time How I Met Your Mother premiered, because it was 2005. It was right after graduating high school. I had a really good friend who was getting married, and I kind of was seeing what was going on there, and I had a friend who was kind of like Barney. I actually had like 3 friends that were kind of like Barney. Barney is like a combination of like all of my friends in college.
I think everybody has known or had a friend like Barney. I absolutely did as well, where it was interesting because I don't know where Barney really goes in this series. I just know him from what I'm seeing in the pilot, and he reminds me of someone that I knew back in the day, where it was kind of like they were using it as a shield to kind of, yeah, they were cool to be out with this woman, that woman, whatever. Felt like they had lots of confidence, and they did have confidence in doing that. But when it came to like real relationships and love and pulling back that curtain, that was the part that they just couldn't get on board with, and it was really difficult for them. as much as they wanted to. And that's what this character kind of felt like. And I don't know where he goes, but that's what he feels like. He feels like this guy who's sort of, I'm just going to stay in this lane because I'm not confident enough to open up the love lane.
The characters in the pilot, to me, are really top notch. And I think that's so important because back at the time that this show premiered, you're looking at, nobody really knew who Josh Radnor was, who plays Ted. Nobody knew Kobe Smulders all that well. Allison Hannigan had a little bit of a fan base, but, you know, the Buffy world's kind of a niche world. Unless you're a really big Buffy fan, maybe you don't know her super well. Jason Segel had a little bit of TV, and Neil Patrick Harris, other than Doogie Howser, and I don't remember if the Harold and Kumar cameo was before or after this, but he hadn't really been a huge pop culture name in a while. So this show, it wasn't bringing you star power. It needed a premise that was really good. It needed characters that were solid and relatable, and I think they, for about 90% of it, I think they really bring it in the pilot almost right away.
Yeah, these characters are all quite relatable. Every person, I could see something in someone that I either still know now or I knew would have known back when they were kind of that, I was that age. And that's what you want in a show. You want to be able to watch a show like a Friends or like How I Met Your Mother and kind of be like, oh yeah, I know someone like that. Or I completely relate to that character, like Ted, where you're watching your friends get ready to get married and get engaged. And you're kind of like, where am I in my life? Okay, I'm just single. I'm nowhere on that path yet. What am I going to do about it?
I think Robin to me is the only character of the main ones that's not fully, like, I don't fully get Robin in the pilot, but I think we only have so much of her. She only shows up like halfway through, so there's not a lot of time we get with her, but the Barney conversation is so interesting to have here because I feel like there are a few different iconic Barney things. Right away, you get the suit up, you get the hey, have you met Ted, which he does like throughout the show. The laser tag. I really feel like the creators had to have known someone like Barney as well in their life because I think they knew who Barney was from the get-go, and I think he's the selling point for a lot of people who watched it for the first time back in the day in terms of like a memorable character.
He's so memorable. Now, they definitely beat that suit up thing over my head, where the first time I laughed, the second time I was a little less laughed, by the fifth time I was kind of like, okay, I get the joke. And, you know, I assume that this goes on throughout the series, which is fine.
Yeah.
But it was a little bit much in the pilot because they went over it over and over again. But a lot of the other jokes, you know, there were some that didn't land, like the whole, oh, don't do anything in the kitchen. Of course they're going to do something in the kitchen. Oh, I've got the champagne bottle and it's probably going to hit somebody. Of course it hit somebody. So some of the jokes were a little like, mwah, mwah. But then other ones were really good. That Have You Met Ted? That was great. I laughed at that. There was a lot. Everything with the cab driver was awesome. That last scene where they're all at the bar and they're all talking, and the cab driver's there. I'm like, this is great.
Yeah, all of that is wonderful. All of just the random characters Barney kind of brings in throughout the show are wonderful, but the cab driver is great. The olive theory, I think, is really fun just because they do have that sort of twist on it where Marshall and Lily build it up as this big romantic construct. And this show is all sort of about taking a lot of romantic cliches and sort of just breaking them down and skewering them, and the reveal that Marshall has secretly liked olives all along. It's so stupid, and yet it's so funny and true.
And it's so relatable because you're on a first date. I mean, everybody's trying to be on their best behavior. You want to try to build up something with someone. Oh, can I have your olives? Of course you can. And that way they don't feel like they're taking it away from you. Oh, I don't like olives anyways. How do you later walk that back? You can't.
No, you really can't. The way that all broke down was really, really funny to me. And just also funny. Seeing all these other people thinking that they can sort of be, you know, love doctors for Ted, when in reality, I think Marshall and Lily are two people who get just really, really lucky that they find each other because they're both so like flawed and imperfect and weird in their own way. They're not really qualified. And Barney, like, I think the only reason the reason Barney doesn't age well, because he is a womanizer and he doesn't always treat women well, but like you said, he uses it as a mask for his own insecurities, and I think he has a lot of problems himself, and that kind of makes it so that he, as well, is even worse in matters of the heart than Ted is. They're all disasters. That's my point here.
I just really liked that Ted is the person that we're kind of focusing on because he's so relatable. We've all been a Ted where we're watching everybody go off and have a life.
It's true, and that does bring us to, I think, what is probably the most controversial aspect of this pilot, and a lot of the show in general, which is you have Bob Saget, who is sort of narrating as older Ted the story of How I Met Your Mother to his kids. This is obviously revisited throughout the series, and it's something where I think I remember watching the pilot and without even knowing anything else and sort of just thinking, you know, Ted's kids are having to sit here and listen to him share a lot of really personal and intimate stories about his love life and time with Robin and getting a kiss. Like, I don't want to hear about my dad kissing someone.
Yeah, in general, for me, this was the weakest part of the pilot for me, where it's we're supposed to be the kids. Like, we're the people sitting on the couch, like they are, listening to this story. And the idea of your dad coming to you and being like, hey, I'm going to tell you how I met your mom and sort of the whole deal with it, or the romance of it and the love of it. And then we get into this pilot. And of course, immediately we assume that Robin is the mom because that is the story that you have told your kids that you're telling them. So you're getting into these really intimate details. And then you're like, oh, and that's how I met Aunt Robin. So first off, this person's being called Aunt Robin. That's already creepy enough to begin with, where these kids look at that person as a family member. They don't know this stuff that's happened before. You're expecting that you are talking about the mother. I'm sitting here being like, I'm one of the kids. Tell me the story. How did you meet the mom? Okay, you've told me nothing about how they've met the mom. So you've told me, it's like if you were, you're trying to explain how you met the mother, but you're telling someone another love story. Then it's like, well, okay, so you're in love with this person? Like, I don't understand. Why aren't you actually telling me what happened with mom? Like, I want to know your love story. Why is it this love story? So when that reveal happened at the end of the episode, I was really disappointed, actually. And I may be on an island by myself here, but I kind of was like, oh man, I really actually wish that it had just been Robin, because you've shown me How You Met Your Mother. Here's How I Met Robin, who I thought was the mother, who I was hoping was the mother. And then I thought we would be on this journey of like, how did we get from this awkward, good first date, miserable night, how it ended? How did we actually ever get a second date? How did we get to the point that we're having kids? Like, that was what I was really interested in. I was like, oh man, this could be really good. And then it was like, no, that's not the mother.
See,
well, why are we telling this? This is such an awkward story that now I just feel awkward.
This is my feeling on it, and I'm trying to isolate the pilot from everything else I know about the show. It's that I remember watching it, and I really liked the twist at the end. And I liked the twist at the end because I was sort of thinking at the time, okay, so I'm a little bit of a hopeless romantic in a lot of ways with shows. Like, I love watching good love stories, and I was like, okay, this love story with Ted and Robin is really interesting, and I love that he kind of does call her Uncle Robin because he makes a joke about being called Uncle Ted in the pilot as well, so it sort of brings that back, and I was like, okay, if this love story is so interesting with Robin, the love story with the mother must be really, really interesting. I'm so excited to see where that goes, because that's not really just a premise that I have seen before on TV. I think your idea, as it suggested, I think that could be a really good show as well, and I don't think there's any problem with viewing it that way. I was just really excited to sort of see where this goes. How the dots are connected, because I think with comedies, especially sitcoms, we don't really have long-form mysteries with very many of them, and I think it was a hook that got people really into the show right away, and I liked the idea behind it, but I do have some of the same questions and issues behind why the kids want to hear all these details about Ted's love life, why Ted wants to share them, and also, why every single part of this is necessary. I know that there are connections and everything else, but you probably could have told an abridged version. It probably just wouldn't be as exciting a show.
Yeah, like I said, I don't know how Robin is connected to the mother, like why this love story that's happening between these two, because the show went on for years. So if we're getting years of this love story, like how is it actually connected to the mom? And I know that the whole thing with the mom is very loosely threaded out throughout it, and you don't really get to know anything about it till the end. So if I'm going to spend years being invested in Ted and Robin, and this is telling of this story to the kids, and that means the kids are going through, this huge love story of somebody else. And right away, if that's the premise, it feels a little awkward, that's all.
I will say this. To me, I did love the moment when, in the midst of the story, you just have that one shot of the kids just, really shocked by what Ted is doing. It's like, even they know that he's terrible at this. I found that part of it funny. The part of the pilot, and this is really the entire show that doesn't work that great to me, it's the laugh track aspect of it. I don't mind it. With Friends, I didn't mind it. With Big Bang Theory, it's just for some reason, I watch How I Met Your Mother, and I know it's a sitcom. I know it has a lot of the tropes. I just think all the time, does it really need this? I don't know if How I Met Your Mother needed to have that part of the sitcom structure to it.
I'm on the no sitcom needs a laugh track. I don't need to be told when I need to laugh. And I know that the idea is laughter is contagious, so if you hear a laugh track, then you know it's time to laugh. But I feel that if you can land a joke, you don't need to tell me when it's time to laugh. I've never liked using a laugh track, and it wasn't needed anywhere on any show ever.
Well, as we start to try to move towards answering that question of, is this pilot actually good, I will say this, that I hate the ending of How I Met Your Mother. I do for so many reasons that I'm not going to get into here, but because of that, I think I have sort of let that cloud my opinion of the show, and I haven't watched How I Met Your Mother in years because of it. But going back and watching this pilot, I had so much fun. I laughed a lot. I smiled. It really brought back to me why I loved this show so much in the first place. And I think it's a really good, important message sometimes that just because you hate something in terms of how it ended, it doesn't mean that the journey can't still be good. There can still be a lot of wonderful moments, including Barney saying suit up 2 billion times, which yes, he probably did too much, but there's just so much good stuff in this pilot. There are so many good things in the series itself, and we have to separate it sometimes.
Yeah, the journey is still worth it. I mean, we've said this a million times about Dexter. I mean, great show, fun journey, one of the worst finales ever. I can't stand it. But I'll go back and watch that journey again because it's completely worth it. So, for me, is this pilot actually good? Yeah, it's good. I mean, I know that for me, like I said, I was hoping that it was going to be the journey about Robin actually being the mother. But the actual, when you look at what the heart of the show is, and that idea of these friends going through this change where two of your friends are getting married, where everyone else kind of fits into this and how that changes the dynamic of the group, if that's what the core of the show is, which is what I felt like it was in this pilot, I'm all in on this. I would watch this show, and I would absolutely watch the next episode based on that, because it's such a great premise that not a lot of shows really touch on, and makes it very unique, and it's funny.
That is the best thing. I think you could take away all of the stuff with Bob Saget and future Ted and just give us the rest of this, it would still be a really good show, and I think it would still be something that was successful. So yeah, I want to go back and watch more episodes now. Like
me too.
Really,
I've never seen the rest of it, but I mean, it has opened up the door.
Yeah, I think it's a really good pilot. I think if you're just looking for something that's fun to watch, it's very much worthwhile, as long as you don't let however it ends change how you feel about the rest of it along the way. But let's hear from you guys. What did you think about the How I Met Your Mother pilot when you first saw it? Have you revisited it since? Does your opinion of the show itself change how you view it? Let us know all your thoughts in the comments. And if you did like this video, give us a like, subscribe, and you can support us further by checking the link in the description below to the store. And we will see you here next time.